Hello friends, this is Dr. Anaga and this is Dr. Praveen Jacob, Adjunct Professor of KSEGDE Medical College, Consultant in Nisargamane Hospital and Scientific Advisor to Alpha Naturals and Atmantan. So, Dr. Praveen Jacob, I heartily welcome to our show.
Welcome.
Well friends, the COVID crisis is in its second wave and it's really bad. And there are a lot of rumors going on around the internet about what to take, what not to take, what will help you in this crisis and what will not help you. Well, to put a full stop to this, we are here to present you with facts that is backed by research that's published in all the medical journals around the world. So today let's talk about one of the most important component in our immune system, that is vitamin D.
Yeah.
So let's talk about vitamin D and its importance in the immune system. So Dr. Praveen, we have heard about a lot of things about vitamin D.
Yeah.
But not many of us know about vitamin D and its role in immunity. So can you please let us know about the importance of vitamin D in immune system?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question because we do know that vitamin D is indispensable requirement for calcium absorption and calcium metabolism. But recent studies are helping scientists to understand that vitamin D has got a wide ranges of benefit in our body, particularly to regulate immunity. And I'm really astonished to see few studies and which help me to recognize that without vitamin D, our immune system will be inactive. It never can launch attack very effectively. In the presence of vitamin D, the immune system get modified. Let's see some of the studies and evidences. For instance, a study published in BMJ, British Medical Journal Nutrition, Prevention and Health, very recent, like I feel around 1 week ago, this study had been published, modest effect of dietary supplement during COVID-19 pandemic, insights from 4.5 lakh users of the COVID-19 symptoms. And they found that two group of population, one group like 1.75 lakh on supplement users and 1.9 lakh, they were not on any supplements.
Okay.
And supplements consist of probiotics, omega-3 fatty acid, multivitamin and vitamin D. These are the 4 supplements they were ingesting for a longer period of time during the period of COVID crisis. And surprisingly, they found that those who were on the supplements like probiotic, omega-3 and vitamin D were 40% less likely to develop COVID infection and associated complications. It's a very significant study.
That means that taking supplements definitely help in boosting our immunity?
Definitely. It's a study very recently, 1 week ago, published in British Medical Journal. Let's see some more studies on British Medical Journal. 60 seconds on vitamin D, the sunshine number 1, 2020. Study was on 2020, October, and the title goes like the sunshine number 1.
Okay.
So they're saying that best remedy during this crisis to boost up our immunity, to battle with this tormenting microbe is nothing but vitamin D.
Here there is one more research paper that tells about statistics of the importance of vitamin D.
Yeah.
So let's see more about it.
Yeah. So the study was conducted last year.
Okay.
It's observational studies. They found that few countries in Europe like Belgium, Spain and Italy had high casualty rate during the COVID crisis of 2020. The death rate of Belgium was 56 deaths in 1 lakh population, Spain 47, Italy 42 and France 32.6 respectively. And surprisingly, they also observed that the neighboring countries, Scandinavian countries, Slovakia, Latvia, Greece, Germany, the death rate was pretty low, like less than 5%. 5. In Slovakia, it is less than 1. Latvia, Greece. And neighboring countries like Belgium, Spain, Italy had huge casualties.
Okay.
So it's really intrigued by scientists. What factors makes the big changes here? That once they observed, they found that Belgium, Italy and Spain, the death rate was very high. The plasma vitamin D ratio, the bloodstream, the vitamin D ratio was pretty low, less than 30. The death rate was close to 50.
Yes.
Whereas the neighboring country, which does not have much impact of COVID crisis, the vitamin D was above 50. Like
Okay.
Iceland, Norway, Finland, Denmark, Slovakia and Germany. So this clearly underscores that the vitamin D can prevent the complication, the morbidity and mortality, the death rate and associated complication can be significantly minimized by the vitamin D administration. That's what I tell you. If you look into evidence, no other molecule has got this amount of studies.
Okay.
This is a study from Indonesia. Low vitamin D patients 10 times more likely to die of coronavirus. And for this particular study, scientists have identified 780 individuals admitted in ICU of Indonesian hospitals. And of 780, 380 of them died from the complication of COVID and 400 survived. 780, total 780, 380 died, 400 survived from ICU.
Okay.
So then observe the vitamin D status of the population who died and who survived. Of 380 died, 365, like 365 of them had vitamin deficiency who died. 380 died, 365 had vitamin D deficiency. Only 16 people with adequate vitamin D succumbed to the death. Whereas who survived, 375 of them had, 400 survived, 375 had right amount of vitamin D in the bloodstream. So this clearly demonstrates that vitamin D can protect in a bigger way. It's the best natural remedy. The best COVID shield is nothing but vitamin D.
Okay. Vitamin D is also called sunshine vitamin. And if you are exposed to good amount of sunlight, then I'm sure you'll get good amount of vitamin D. And as you can see from this research, it is definitely a great shield to battle against death caused by COVID. So we just saw that vitamin D definitely reduces the mortality rate. Let's see about the molecular mechanism of vitamin D and immunity. So doctor, can you please explain about the molecular mechanism?
Yeah, a study published in Central European Journal of Immunology 2018. All the studies are very recent. You need to note down this point. The immunological implication of new vitamin D metabolism. The immunological implication of new vitamin D metabolism. Study published in Central European Journal of Immunology. And very recently, scientists have found a unique pathway associated with the vitamin D metabolism. And we have a notion that vitamin D is just for absorbing the calcium.
Yes.
And which is a misconception. Recent study says that vitamin D's role is beyond this one. So they found two powerful natural antibiotics produced by our body, immune cells particularly, in the presence of vitamin D.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
We never knew about it.
Yeah, that's an amazing discovery. And do you believe it's the most powerful in the planet mankind ever identified? Neither brought from pharma shop nor prescribed by a doctor. It has to be produced by our own cells.
As you all know, sunlight is the best source of vitamin D. Vitamin D production by the body happens in 3 phases. When your skin is exposed to sunlight, it absorbs UV light from the sun. And the first phase is an inactive form and which goes to the liver, and combining with the enzymes in the liver, it becomes the second part of the inactive phase. It is finally activated in the kidney and it is absorbed by the body.
Yeah.
So looking about vitamin D and immunity, there are so many studies which say vitamin D helps to fight against respiratory infections. As you can see here, vitamin D supplementation is associated with reduction in acute respiratory tract infections, which means the more amount of vitamin D you have, the less number of infections you have from respiratory diseases. Next.
Yeah, for example, 1903, the Nobel Prize was rewarded to Dr. Niels Finsen in the field of medicine, and his discovery was ultraviolet rays exposure helps to cure tuberculosis.
Okay.
Which was very significant. That point of time, maybe 100 years ago, the main cause of death in humanity was TB, tuberculosis. Even during the time of independence in India, more than 20 lakh people died every year from the tuberculosis. And this gentleman found that ultraviolet rays can cure tuberculosis. And tuberculosis is a respiratory
Yes.
disease. What's the relation between ultraviolet rays and tuberculosis? Ultraviolet rays boost the production of
Vitamin D.
vitamin D.
Yes.
It's not the ultraviolet killed the
Yes.
tuberculosis bacteria. It is the vitamin D. Once you expose to ultraviolet rays, which result in
Vitamin D
vitamin D
production.
production,
Yes.
eventually helps to heal from tuberculosis. There was no cure for tuberculosis, but sunlight and vitamin D could cure, for which Nobel Prize was
One.
won of 1903. Niels Finsen
Yes.
won the Nobel Prize.
So, Dr. Praveen, can you please explain about the molecular mechanism of vitamin D and how it is effective against the virus?
Yeah, today most of the general public are aware that vitamin D is very important to battle with the COVID, but no one knew the mechanism. So let
Yes.
me explain to you vitamin D antimicrobial peptide. The presence of vitamin D, immune system, immune cells, the human cells produce two powerful natural antibiotics called as cathelicidin and defensins. Cathelicidin and defensin, antibiotics produced by immune cells in the presence of vitamin D.
Okay.
If you don't have right vitamin D ratio in the plasma, we miss these two powerful antibiotics to battle with the microbes. That's what, again I repeat to you, I insist to you that most of the COVID victims have vitamin D deficiency. It might not help you to prevent. You might get the infection, but I can promise you one thing, it can significantly minimize the impact of COVID infection, which is the accumulation of fluid in legs and subsequently patients, subjected to breathing difficulties
Yes.
and succumb to the COVID infection.
Yes.
So this pathway can be literally blocked by these two powerful natural antibiotic called as cathelicidin and defensin.
So we saw that cathelicidin and defensin are one of the most powerful antimicrobial compounds that is produced in our body, and this can be produced only when there is enough amount of vitamin D in your blood. So doctor, can we see more about it?
Yeah. Let me explain the cathelicidin and defensin pathway.
Yes.
The best defensive pathway, cathelicidin and defensin pathway. So 25, this represents vitamin T, inactive form of vitamin T, absorbed in large quantity by immune cells and converted into active form, and active vitamin T inside the immune cells can bind to nucleus of macrophages, immune cells. You can see the binding to the nucleus DNA
Yes.
of immune cells, and which trigger production of two powerful natural antibiotic by cells called as cathelicidin and defensins. Defensin, for instance, directly interact with the virus,
Okay.
and virus has got a lipid bilayer made up of fatty acids. So this bilayer, the lipid layer of virus is interrupted by
Defensins.
defensins.
Okay.
And you can, like, type of holes are generated, so that impair the activity of virus, and you can significantly reduce the replication, multiplication of virus.
Okay.
So you can arrest the expansion of viral infection by defensin. Whereas cathelicidin, it acts as a signaling molecule.
Okay.
Our immunity has got a different components. Like in the defensive force, it consists of Army, Navy and Air Force. If Army alone launch an attack, more likely to get defeated in the war.
Yeah.
But if combined together, the war will be very strong and powerful. So the cathelicidin helps to combine three forces together. Like we have different type of immune cells like Army, Air Force and Navy. So we know that defense minister coordinate the three
Yeah.
forces together like Army. Similarly, we have different type of immune cells, macrophages, antibody mediated immune responses, T cell mediated immune response. So it should be combined. So this cathelicidin is like a defense minister,
Okay.
coordinate the attack together.
Okay.
So we'll have a very intensified and coordinated war against enemy. But for that, the cathelicidin has to act as a signaling molecule, a signaling from Army to Air Force to Navy. So the cathelicidin plays exactly same role, act as a signaling molecule and coordinating the immunity to attack a particular enemy, whereas the defensin, so that directly interact with the virus or bacteria, create some holes, impair the activity of virus and bacteria. So, but good news is that if you have right amount of vitamin D, the defensin and cathepsin can be generated. You will have a very strong and powerful immunity, and you can minimize the complication of viral infection.
Okay. So we just saw that once the vitamin D is taken up by the immune cells and it is converted into active form of vitamin D, it activates the production of two powerful protein compounds called cathelicidin and defensin. So cathelicidin acts as a signaling molecule which activates the immune system even faster, and defensin acts directly on the virus and it minimizes the replication of virus and thereby inhibiting the growth and complications created by the virus. So let's see about a few studies which talk about defensin and cathelicidin. There was a research published in PubMed that talks about defensin and cathelicidin in lung immunity, and the conclusion was that these molecules help to fight against the microbial invasion in the lungs. There is one more study which was published in Journal of Leukocyte Biology. This says participation of mammalian defensin and cathelicidin in antimicrobial immunity. It says receptor and activities of human defensin and cathelicidin. As we spoke about the molecular mechanism of cathelicidin and defensin, this is exactly the study that says about the mechanism of these two molecules.
Yeah.
So doctor, we now know that vitamin D plays a major role in immunity. Can you give us an idea about how much of vitamin D is required for the body?
Yeah, around 400 international unit to 800 international unit, which is the recommendation by most of the health experts. Unfortunately, the sunshine vitamin, most of the Indians have deficiency of the sunshine vitamin D because of lack of sunlight exposure.
Okay.
So I feel the best solution, supplementation. If you cannot get into sunlight every day on a regular basis, better you can procure it from supplements.
Okay.
Yeah.
So suppose if you are able to get exposure to sunlight, how long would we have to be exposed to sunlight?
Vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. That implies that once it is produced, store in our fat for longer period of time.
Okay, that's
so instead of getting 10 minute or 20 minute exposure every day, once in a week you get exposed 2 hours continuously. So that produce store in your fat cells for period of 2 months to 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, it's unlike water soluble vitamins.
Okay.
It retain in our body for prolonged period of time. Maybe once in a week for 2 hours or every day half an hour from 8 to 8:30. It's a good option.
Okay.
And if you don't have access to sunlight, supplementation. Because I feel most of my patients in my clinic have vitamin D deficiency.
Okay.
Yeah, so solution is supplements. Supplements can be 1000 international unit or 2000 international unit. 1000 IU international unit can be taken every day, 2000 alternative days.
Okay. So the best sources of vitamin D is one is sunshine and the second one is supplementation. If you can get good amount of sunlight exposure in everyday life or as doctor said once in a week, then that is good enough. Or if you are not able to get sunlight exposure, then the best way is supplements. So doctor, we see a few people taking high doses of vitamins in this time of crisis. Is it recommended or what is the side effect of taking such high doses of vitamin
Yeah, it's
D?
called as bogus dosage.
Okay.
Which consists of 60,000 international unit a single dosage. So recommendation, the daily requirement allowance RDA is 800, but in bogus dosage it is almost 60-fold higher, 60,000 international unit. Most of the injections consist of 60,000 international unit, and doctors recommend once in a week for 2 or 3 months consecutively.
Okay.
Yeah. So this bogus dosage is good, maybe one time.
Okay. But that is a lot of vitamin D,
Yeah,
right?
but if you have deficiency less than 10 or less than 15, you can go for one time bogus dosage like 60,000 and after wait for 10 more days. Don't take anything for 10 days. And after 10 days, you start with 1,000 or 2,000 every day. I feel 1,000 or 2,000 is far better than taking 60,000 twice in a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So friends, as you heard, taking 1000 international units every day or 2000 international units alternate days, or the best thing is sunlight exposure. These are the sources of vitamin D that you can get and help to boost your immune system and fight against the crisis. So doctor, thank you very much for today's session. I hope this has helped a lot of people to understand about the importance of vitamin D in fighting against this crisis. Thank you.
Welcome.